Benissimo, e a questo punto il nostro protagonista, Safran Foer. Entriamo subito, diciamo, nei temi del libro. Abbiamo sentito nella lettura, nella breve passo che abbiamo letto, quello che è un po' il tema che già anticipava anche Stefano Mauri, cioè uno dei temi del libro è c'è chi nega il cambiamento climatico, ma tutto sommato la maggior parte degli individui è convinto che ci sia, sa che c'è. E però è come se non ci credesse fino in fondo, perché di fatto non fa nulla, cioè non passiamo all'azione, non cambiamo le nostre vite per correggere la situazione, per aprire una lotta contro questa crisi. Vorrei appunto chiederti, secondo te perché questo accade? Perché siamo così bloccati in questo limbo e non facciamo nulla?
Well, first I want to say thank you to everybody who made the event possible. Thank you for all of you for coming. And thank you for those who are on the stage here. There are a lot of different ways to tell the same story. And one can talk about climate change as a novelist. One can talk about climate change as a parent or as a child. One can talk about climate change in one's workplace. And one can talk about it as an advocate. And I spent a lot of my life, I would even say until this last year, very recently, dismissing the way that advocates talked about the issues that I cared about, whether it was climate change, whether it was how food is produced. And I would think, well, kind of good for them, but it's not really my way of doing things. And I sometimes found it, to be honest, a little annoying or a little bit weird. And I've completely changed. And I feel such extreme gratitude for anybody who risks standing up and saying what not only they believe in, but what we all believe in. We all believe in the same things here. There's nobody in this audience, and there's nobody in this city, and there's nobody in this country who wants to, in the case of food, hurt animals. There's just nobody who wants to do that. There's nobody who wants to destroy the planet. So why are so few people having to speak on behalf of everybody else? So few people, and they're often children, are taking the burden of reminding everybody else not what they should care about, but what they already care about. So I do want to begin with my largest thank you to the group Fridays for Future that's here. So you asked me why it's hard to care about, right? That was the essence of your question.
Difficile.
There's a lot of reasons it's hard to care about. It's hard to care about because we have so many disincentives to care about it, because it's not as if, you know, if we would only give up punching ourselves, we could save the planet. Unfortunately, the things we have to give up are things that we like. Or not even give up, but the things that we need to reduce. So it's just a wonderful thing to travel. It's a wonderful thing to see other cultures and taste other foods and have your perspective expanded by visiting other countries. I would say it's even an ethically good thing. And yet, we are going to have to fly less. We know this. This is not an opinion. This is a scientific fact. We have to fly less to save the planet. It's a wonderful thing to eat a delicious meal. You know, I'm a vegetarian, but I think that meat looks good, and I think it tastes good, and I think it smells good. There's nothing wrong with admitting that meat can have a very, very valuable place in our culture, that a lot of our memories of our happiest meals may have involved meat. And for almost everybody, our parents ate meat, our grandparents ate meat. So it's difficult. It's difficult to say I want to do less of that or to do none of that. I think there's another way, though, of looking at it that can make it easier, which is, or two other ways. One is we don't have to just give up these things that we love, but we do have to start to live with the kind of moderation that will allow for other people to have those same experiences that we've loved. And the second thing is, if you value seeing other parts of the world, and I value these, I was saying, meals that I've had with people that I love, I think at the basis of our desire to travel and our desire to share in the kinds of foods that we grew up eating is one fundamental value, which is it's really great to be alive. And it's great to be alive on planet Earth, which is our only home, is the only home we're ever going to have. And more than any one of these experiences, we want more of that. And I want my kids to have more of that. And I want kids who I've never even met to have more of that. And I want strangers to have more of that. We can't both have these behaviors in the volume that we're having them, while continuing to have this amazing existence that we've taken for granted, but are no longer taking for granted.
E tra le azioni che tu proponi c'è appunto ridurre i voli aerei, ma c'è soprattutto cambiare la nostra dieta, da qui anche il titolo del libro, ridurre in particolar modo il consumo di carne. Puoi chiarire, hai già dedicato tra l'altro in passato un libro a questo tema, il tema degli allevamenti intensivi, se Niente Importa, edito nel 2009 sempre da Wanda, e vorrei chiederti di chiarire proprio qual è il legame tra il consumo di carne e appunto il riscaldamento globale, l'inquinamento, la crisi climatica.
So I should say I really didn't want to write a book about meat again, and I did not think that I was going to. I wanted to write a book about climate change because I was becoming it was just intolerable to hear myself say over and over and over, oh, we've got to do something. You know, probably everybody has heard themselves saying that in the last year or two or three, maybe especially since Trump was elected or especially since Bolsonaro was elected. Oh, the world is falling apart, we have to do something. And it was as if like a piano fell on my head one day, and I just thought, why do I say that all the time and not do anything? And so I decided that I would explore what it was that I could do, both in the sense of what I could do that would matter in the world, and also what I could do that was possible for me. Because there are a lot of things that it would be good if I did, but if I'm being honest, they're just not possible for me. I could have taken a boat to Italy to do this reading, but I didn't, I flew, because a boat trip didn't feel possible to me. It took me no time at all to realize when investigating climate change that food is the most important decision that we make as individuals on a daily basis that affects the environment. And I thought, people are going to think I'm trying to sneak something in and make another case for vegetarianism, and just conveniently it has to do with the environment. But that certainly wasn't the case. So this is not, again, I think it's important to continually make a reminder that this is not an opinion, what I'm about to say, and it's not a controversial scientific finding. This is very well established fact that is the scientific consensus right now. That animal agriculture, this is according to the United Nations, by the way, which is a fairly conservative scientific body. The United Nations says that animal agriculture is one of the top 2 or 3 causes of every environmental problem on the planet, locally and globally. Air pollution, water pollution, deforestation, loss of biodiversity, and greenhouse gas emissions. The IPCC, which is the scientific body of the United Nations, says that animal agriculture is responsible for about 1/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions, which makes it a significantly greater cause than the entire transportation sector put together. Why does it cause so much greenhouse gas emissions? Well, cows, whether you're raising them on a factory farm or you're raising them on what I would call a good farm, just naturally produce methane, which is one of the most powerful greenhouse gases. Also, meat is a very inefficient way to eat. We have to put between 6 and 26 calories, depending on what kind of animal it is, into an animal to get 1 calorie out of the animal. So it's not only inefficient in terms of energy and the carbon footprint, but just in terms of food. There are 1 billion starving people on the planet and 1 billion obese people on the planet. And the obese people are eating the food that should be going to the starving people. What's the population of Italy?
60 million.
60 million. There are 150 million children under the age of 5 on Earth right now who are physically stunted because of malnutrition. It's not to say that they're occasionally hungry. They are not growing properly. Children under the age of 5. Can you imagine if 2.5 Italys were filled with children under the age of 5 who were physically stunted because they didn't have enough food? Nobody would find that acceptable. Everybody would find that intolerable. And again and again and again, as I said at the beginning, these are not problems where we disagree. These are not political problems in the sense of political divisions. They're political problems in the sense of our leaders, but not in the sense of old people think one thing, young people think one thing, religious people think one thing, atheists think one thing, Democrats think one thing, Republicans. We all think the same thing. We all find the idea of starving children intolerable. We all find the idea of not being able to go outside in the summer intolerable. We all find the idea of tens of millions or hundreds of millions of climate refugees intolerable. So we have to stop talking about our feelings and start talking about what it is that we can do.
Ecco, il suo libro è sicuramente questo un invito, una chiamata all'azione individuale, è quello che possiamo fare. Di certo non si deve essere differenti, dopo averlo letto. Ti chiedo però, direi nominati tu, Bolsonaro, Trump, se comunque questi leader non abbiano anche una responsabilità in generale, il leader politico ha anche una responsabilità simbolica, in un mondo che fa fatica a credere, che fa fatica ad agire, i leader hanno una responsabilità nella comunicazione e appunto di limitare l'azione.
They absolutely do. It's a shame that they don't assume that responsibility. So we have a choice. We can wait for these leaders who will lead us. We could just be very angry about it and invest all of our emotions when it comes to climate change into hating Donald Trump. And he's kind of the perfect vessel. It's as if God made a vessel for our anger, and it took the form of Donald Trump. Or we could also spend some time looking in the mirror and say, what can I do right now? You know, there's a presidential election in the United States in about a year. We just can't wait a year. There's a presidential election in the United States in a year, and whoever we elect is not going to be our savior. You know, there's some very good people running, and people I would support, but they're not going to solve the problem. As leaders see people acting, I mean, first of all, our actions can go quite a long ways to solving the problem. So you said Bolsonaro. When people see images of the Amazon burning, everyone I know says, how can he do this? 91% of the burning in the Amazon is for animal agriculture, either to create land for the animals to graze or to create land to grow food for the animals. Bolsonaro is not writing the checks for that burning to happen. We are writing the checks. When you sign a check at a restaurant, when you've eaten beef,
When you sign the check at a supermarket, when you put beef into your grocery cart, you are signing the check to the people who are burning the Amazon. If we were to somehow tomorrow, miracle of miracles, decide, let's just try a boycott of beef for a month. Maybe that would be a good way to say to Bolsonaro, don't do this anymore. He would not do it anymore because all of the support would dry up. So I completely agree with anybody who says we cannot solve this problem alone. and there has to be some legislation. We need leaders who create regulations that make it more difficult to destroy the planet. But we just don't have that kind of time. And they're not going to come about because we wait for them. You know, we can start to change the world. Everybody in this room is going to eat dinner within a couple of hours. So that's a very good place to start. And as we make those little changes, I'm not saying that everyone's going to eat dinner in 3 hours, so become a vegetarian. I'm saying everyone's going to eat dinner in 3 hours, so maybe that meal is possible. Just see if it's possible. Who knows, maybe it will feel good. Maybe it will feel bad. It's okay if something feels bad when it's the right thing to do, but maybe it will feel good after all. And then there's breakfast the next day, and that's another chance. And then there's lunch, and it's another chance. As we start to take those steps, everything in the world will change in response.
In una recente intervista al Corriere, Naomi Klein, attivista che conoscerete insomma come autrice di Nologo nel 2000, adesso fortemente impegnata nella lotta al cambiamento climatico, e avremo 2 pagine con lei nella lettura in edicola domenica. In questa intervista comunque già anticipava una sfiducia totale nei confronti dei leader politici e invece si diceva confidente piuttosto nella forza dei movimenti dal basso, appunto movimenti come Fridays for Future, e in effetti viviamo una fase di risveglio. Ti volevo chiedere insomma perché una figura come Greta Thunberg, una ragazza di 16 anni, proprio in questo momento ha così tanta forza, cioè sono anni che gli scienziati ci avvertono, eppure una ragazza giovane sta forse risvegliando quelle coscienze di cui parlavamo all'inizio. È cambiato qualcosa in generale nell'atmosfera su questi temi, oppure è legato alla figura di Greta? Cioè, che idea ti sei fatto?
I think first of all, just the being confronted by there's 2 kinds of truths, you know, the kind that you learn and the kind that you always knew. And it's very challenging to be confronted by a truth that you already knew, that you always knew. When I was a kid, when I would get in trouble, my parents would often say, "You know better." And the knowing was what made it an offense rather than a mistake. I tell a story in the book about a 20-year-old Catholic in the Polish underground named Jan Karski, and he escaped from Nazi-occupied Poland and made it all the way to the United States so that he could tell the leaders what was happening, with the hope that they would do something, you know, do something. And he met with the Supreme Court Justice named Felix Frankfurter, who was, and still is, considered one of the smartest people America has ever produced. And he was also Jewish, for what it's worth. And Jan Karski said to him, "Look, this is what the Germans are doing to the Jews in Europe. And here are testimonies that I've taken from people in extermination camps and in the Warsaw Ghetto. And here's evidence of what's going on. You have to do something because you can do something." And Frankfurter thought about it, and he walked around the room, and he asked him a few questions. And then he sat down and he said, "Listen, I have to tell you, I can't believe what you're telling me." And Karski said, how can you not believe this? How could you possibly think I'm lying? Look at all of this evidence. Why would I lie? And Frankfurter said, "I didn't say that you were lying. I said that I can't believe you." And he said, "My mind and my heart weren't made in such a way that I can believe this." And what's so remarkable about that story is he's admitting not only to his inability to believe, but his own awareness of his inability to believe. So everybody in this room accepts the science of climate change. At this point in time, almost everybody in the world does. It's really not even worth paying attention to the people who don't. That's how small a group they are. But how many of us, really believe? And as the reader, I know enough Italian to understand the passage that he read earlier. When that kid right there, when he grows up, And when he has kids and he's teaching them about what we did, how are they going to look back at our denial? Because we are also practicing a form of climate change denial when we know something to be true and we don't do anything about it. So Greta Thunberg is very, very effective at forcing us to confront what we already knew. And I think she's successful both because she's a child and because ultimately climate change is about the future, saving the future. And because she has a particular charisma, which is extremely rare, and has, I assume when you've watched her speak, you felt that she's speaking literally to you. That is how I feel when I watch her speak, that her eyes are really probing and very, it's uncomfortable, actually, but it's uncomfortable in the way that we need to be uncomfortable.
Un'ultima domanda prima di sentire un altro brano dal libro. Nel libro, lo abbiamo già detto, già Safran Foer si mette molto in gioco, c'è una parte in cui c'è un dialogo di se stesso con la propria anima e c'è una parte finale invece in cui si rivolge ai figli. Tu hai 2 figli di 13 e 14 anni, hanno 2-3 anni meno di Greta. Volevo chiederti se anche nella vostra famiglia, se anche loro sono coinvolti in qualche forma di attivismo o di riflessione o di azione.
Not really. they're just kids, and I'm glad that they get to just be kids. It's a real shame that we have put children in the position of having to be our parents instead of allowing them to be children and to play and to not have to worry about whether their parents are destroying the planet. What I will say is that I talk to my children about these issues, and some of these changes that we have to make, some of them are very easy and really require almost no more effort than just remembering, but some of them are difficult, as we were talking about before. And it's difficult also to remember in the moment. It's easy when we're in a room like this and we're gathered to talk about climate change. It's very easy to feel motivated, but tomorrow it won't feel as easy to be motivated. So how do we somehow summon whatever it will take inside of us to do the thing that right now in this room we all agree we want to do? I have the same problem, by the way. It's not as if I'm on the, just because I'm on the stage doesn't mean I don't share that struggle. I find that one thing that's very, very helpful is to have witnesses. So, writing this book, I ended up having the witnesses of all the readers. There have been many times, many times, when I have wanted to eat something at breakfast and lunch that I say you shouldn't eat in this book, when I've literally, like in Mantova, for example, the other day, I was out in a cafe and I thought, I sure don't want somebody to see me eating something. And that might sound really cheap and stupid, but ultimately maybe that's how we change, by having witnesses. So, which is why it's so powerful not just to think something in your head, but to say to your friend, to your partner, to your parents, I'm trying to do this, it's going to be hard for me, you're going to notice that I make a few different decisions, period. And then suddenly we've become a community rather than a bunch of disconnected individuals. I had a conversation with my kids, and I said, you're going to see that I'm going to start to eat a little differently. Here's the reasons why. They said, okay, great, that makes a lot of sense. It is really difficult to betray that now. If I'm tempted to eat something and they're in the room, I just wouldn't do it because I want to be a role model. I don't want my kids to be my role models. I don't want the people who are here who are younger than me to be my role models. I would rather be their role models because I should know more. What is the good in growing older if not growing wiser? What is the good of moving through life if not getting better at living life? So I want to be their role model. I want to show them that, you know what, being a human being and being an adult, part of that is sometimes using your brain to choose not to do something that your mouth wants to do, or your hands want to do, or, it's using our reason and our consciousness and our conscience to sometimes repress our instincts. So in a way, the most important role that my kids have had so far, thankfully, is to keep me honest.
Adesso vorrei chiedere se ci sono delle domande da parte delle attiviste e degli attivisti qui alla mia destra.
Hi. Fridays for Future sta organizzando una settimana di climate strike, cioè di sciopero climatico, dal 20 al 27 settembre. Nell'ambito di questa settimana, nella quale sono state organizzate tutta una serie di iniziative, noi lanciamo anche per il 23 di settembre un No Meat Day, cioè un giorno in cui chiediamo alle persone di non comprare né consumare carne, perché riteniamo che la carne sia una delle cose più dannose per il nostro pianeta. Però volevo chiedere se come potremo, con quali strumenti riusciremo a bloccare questo eccessivo consumo di carne, se con l'educazione o con altri sistemi. O una cosa che volevo chiedere è se per esempio le tasse sulla carne che sono state proposte in Germania, per esempio, potrebbero essere una buona soluzione.
It might be a good solution, but it's not going to happen, or it's not going to happen very soon. I think the most important thing we can do is to tell the story about meat differently. Because until now it's been told that you're a vegetarian or you're a meat eater. And if you're a meat eater or if you're an animal farmer, then you should feel guilty. And there are only two options. You do everything or you do nothing. And I met a lot of farmers when I wrote Eating Animals, and I didn't meet a single farmer that I disliked. Every farmer I met, they weren't factory farmers, because factory farms don't really have human beings anymore. But farmers, the small farmers and small farms that we imagine, they care about their animals. They don't want to unnecessarily torture animals. They care about the environment. Nobody becomes a farmer to destroy the environment. The real enemy is an industrial complex. So we need to never vilify farmers and always make clear that we're on the same team and we have the same values. We need to never vilify meat eaters, because these are foods that people have been eating for thousands of years, and most people have been eating since their childhoods. So what we need to do is not say meat is murder. We need to not say meat is destroying the world, but instead say we need to eat a lot less of this. Like, can we do that together? The values are not different. Every meat eater I know cares about the planet exactly as much as every vegetarian that I know. But we've been telling the story in such a way that a lot of people who eat meat feel like, ooh, there's no place for me in this. I don't want to feel stupid. I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to feel evil. So I'm just not going to have that conversation with you. But there's a completely different way of having the conversation where we reveal that we are all on the same side, and we, even if our methods are different, and sometimes our methods are very different, our conclusions are the same. And we need to work toward a world that is less violent and less destructive. So if you were to say to me, what are the odds that 50% of Americans will be vegetarian in 10 years? I would say pretty close to zero. If you were to ask me, what are the odds that 50% of the meals eaten in America are vegetarian next year? I would say I believe that will happen. But it requires a shifting of the way that we tell the story, away from an identity, I'm a vegetarian, I'm a pescatarian, I'm a flexitarian, and instead toward these daily choices that we make that are possible for everybody in this room. I really appreciate that vegetarianism might not be possible for everybody in this room. I get that. It's not because you're weak, it's not because you're evil, it's because it's difficult. But eating less meat is definitely possible for everyone in this room. So that's the goal that we have to set for ourselves.
Sono altre domande da parte degli attivisti? Prego.
Sì, io ho letto il libro, mi è piaciuto molto. Mi è piaciuta, ho trovato interessante la parte sul giorno del ringraziamento, sul fatto di formare delle ritualità. Quindi una domanda su quale può essere il ruolo delle religioni, di tutte le religioni, nel formare una coscienza collettiva su questo tipo di temi, anche di dialogo interreligioso in questo senso.
The notion of protecting the earth is biblical. You know, every religion has somewhere near its basis the idea that, first of all, let me begin by saying I'm not religious. So what I'm going to tell you is at a little bit of a distance and observation. But one of the things that I value about religion is an emphasis on wonder, you know, gratitude and wonder for God's creations, and an implied responsibility to protect those creations. And I believe that religious leaders will very soon, they are already beginning to. The Pope is one of the most important environmentalists in the world right now, and I very, very much hope that Jewish leaders, Muslim leaders, other Christian leaders begin to make, it's again a case of something we've always known. Like, we've always known that these are biblical and religious values, not because actually they are unique to religion, but because they are shared and fundamental human values. So a pulpit, you know, there are a lot of different kinds of pulpits in the world. One is, a book is actually a kind of pulpit from which you can say a lot of things to a lot of people. And then there are literal pulpits, you know, in churches and synagogues and imams, and the idea of having leaders say to their congregations, we all care about this, but it's not enough to care about it. It's not enough to say, honor thy father and mother. You have to honor your father and mother. It's not enough to say, thou shalt not kill. You have to also not kill. And it's not enough to say, we love the planet. We love, it's not even, in a way, it misses the point when we say we love the planet, because the planet will be fine after us. If we destroy it, the planet will still go on. We just won't be here to enjoy it. So what we're really talking about when we talk about saving the planet is saving ourselves and saving our experience of life. All of the things that we take for granted that we just love so much, and as we start to lose them, it will be revealed to us how much we love them. All of the things that, you know, the walk through the park that is right now our way of getting from point A to point B, when we're not able to make that walk because it's too hot out for however many days or weeks and months a year, we will then realize how much we liked it. So I think the shortest version, that I should have said in the beginning to your question is, different people have different voices. Greta Thunberg has a voice because of her age, because of her persona. Religious leaders have a voice, authors have a voice, parents have a voice. There's nobody in this room who doesn't have a voice. And we have to start using our voices to make sure that we're doing something rather than just saying something.